Hello everyone, welcome to another Table Talk. Today we're going to be talking about our time at Dice Tower West 2024.
Dice Tower West is located in Las Vegas. It was from March 6th to the 10th, and the con was at Rio, is where we stayed.
So, yes, a little PSA before we get into it. If you're going to go on a trip or a vacation and you have any valuables, leave them home or keep them on you at all times. Because unfortunately for us, things were stolen from right out of our room, and it did kind of put a damper on the con towards the end when we realized that happened. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about Dice Tower West. So, first day we did some painting. We did some painting of miniatures. They didn't have a teacher. The person who was running it was kind of giving advice if you asked for it. They had a bunch of miniatures to choose from like 4 or 5 different games, and they were going to cycle out those miniatures with different miniatures from the same games from the day basis.
Yeah, so it was like maybe 4 to 5 options on day one. So you got to pick your miniature and pick your paint colors, and then sit down and paint. You could take it however long you want. It was basically an all-day event every day. So I mean, I enjoyed it and I had fun, but it was only 4 or 5, and it was like 1 miniature per person. So it was like,
we didn't really go back there, of course, but we did enjoy. It was fine. Next, they had some shows. So they actually had the shows in the booklets. Try to see if I can find it.
There was different shows every day, but there was like a welcome first timers almost every day. They had that, and then
all kinds of panels and shows going on, which is what I'm talking about. We did for first timers where they just kind of talked about the different things to do. They had a Q&A for creator Q&A. Got to meet some other YouTubers like Before You Play and Board Game Geek, which was cool. And let's see what else
there was 2 game shows.
They did 2 game shows. They had Let's Get Dicey, where it was 2 teams going at it, doing some stuff. Not so much audience participation, but then they had a game show hosted by Tom on the Dice Tower, which was some audience participation. Where
it was a trivia game show.
Yeah, we got a piece of paper and pencil. We got to write down our answers and kind of did some point thing at the end, which was cool. We got to see a top 5 overrated games, which was the last show of the con.
Yes, it was very controversial.
And entertaining.
Yes.
Definitely enjoyed because everyone in the Dice Tower that was there pretty much participated for the most part. And it was fun of them commenting on each other's choices. Anyway, moving on from that, they had scavenger hunt contest.
2 of them.
One for the main con area where they had QR codes posted up everywhere for the different variety of rooms that they had. So like one for the demos, one for the main play area and stuff like that. If you scanned them all, you got a ticket for the next year's show.
If you won the raffle.
You entered into raffle. The other one you can go ahead and talk about
was for the exhibit hall. If you scan all the QR codes there and won the raffle, you would get a $50 voucher for any exhibit that you could spend on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are 2 contests, scavenger hunts that they had, which I thought was pretty cool. Kind of get people moving and up and looking at things.
I did like that it was a QR code scanning versus having to find people and get them to stamp the booklet. Right. Yeah.
So talking about the exhibition hall, where they have all the publishers and such. They have all kinds of things there. They even have a little map in here with all the exhibitors and things going on there. So they had things like game tables, which were really fancy with like a TV built into it. They had...
Most of the exhibit were for board games, but then there were other things like soaps and jewelry and side items, like just random trinkets and stuff.
That are board game adjacent.
Yes.
Board game themed items. But we didn't do too much in there. we did check out
a couple of games.
A couple of games. They had All Play was there.
Yeah.
And we checked out one of their demos called Bites, where you're moving ants down this path of food, trying to collect food for points.
Yeah. I enjoyed that one. It was cute. There was another game that I enjoyed. It was called What's on the Menu, where you have a menu, you're collecting food items to put on your menu, and if they are cohesive, you get bonus points for that. And we played the short version, which I think I would prefer compared to the long version of that game. Another game we played was called Expression, which is a co-op game where you put down hints about your cards, and then you're trying to get your
guess your everyone else's hand.
Yeah, they're trying to guess what other people have, and you get points by what you guess right, and you lose points if you guess wrong and whatnot. And it was, to me, it was like an inverse of Hanabi, and I do enjoy Hanabi, but with Hanabi you have a memory aspect, and this one doesn't require memory. You just gotta look on the table and see what's there and make deductions, which I like that.
Okay. So they have those two.
The other game we tried out was called Gap.
That was Arcane Wonders. So they had a good, decent sized section as well.
Well, in this game, you're collecting cards, following certain rules, and at the end, you score by taking your largest pile of cards, subtracted by your smallest pile of cards, and that would be your score. And that was the reason it's called Gap. Is your point is the space between the large and the small, which I thought was pretty neat.
Moving on from the exhibition hall is some demos. We're going to talk about some demos that we played.
So there was a lot of demos. We did split off at some points to play demo games by ourselves just so we could play more games.
Also because some of them overlapped time.
Yes. So the first game we played was Midnight Guardians, and I thought it was really cute. There's a villain that is controlling these little woodland creatures, and you are guardians that are going in there trying to rescue these woodland creatures. And we play the co-op version because there is a competitive version also.
I enjoyed that game. The designer is trying to do some world building as well because he has other games taking place in like the same universe as this game, which is pretty cool. But yeah, no, that was a really fun experience.
Yeah, it really did require the cooperation because in the beginning we were just doing whatever.
Well, we were learning.
And we weren't doing too well, but towards the end we're like, oh, we need to really focus.
Strategizing, really good.
And in the end we were able to make it through the
demo session, which was only like half a game.
Yes.
But yeah.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. Well, the next game Matt tried was called Digsaw.
Yes, you were busy. I tried this game called Digsaw, which is kind of a roll and write, but it's not really writing involved because you roll dice that give you some choices, and then you cut your board. So it comes with scissors for everyone, and you're cutting little chunks out of this board or map, whatever, trying to isolate little pieces for points. And there's a penalty if you cut too much, or if you couldn't make the cut, you scratch out some point value, which could be good or bad. I don't know, pretty much bad. And there's some other bonuses that get you extra cuts and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting, fun. Yeah, like I said, it's a different take on the idea of roll and do something.
I thought it sounded very interesting. I did want to try it, so I'm disappointed I didn't get to. But I was playing other games. The game I was playing was Tempo Code. And Tempo Code is a deduction-based game, and I do enjoy deduction games, but it is similar to Mastermind, but with 4 players, and where you take a card, and your opponent takes the other card, and then you match it with your secret code.
On the back side, because then they'll have little symbols that indicate right color, or in the right spot, or right color, wrong spot, or just nothing's right about it.
Yeah, so if you get no symbols, that means nothing's right, and you'll know that none of these symbols are yours. If you get a blue dot, that means that one of these symbols is in the right position and is your symbol. If you get a red triangle, well, you know one of these symbols is your symbol, but it's in the wrong position. And then with all these hints, you mark out, you know, these clues, and then you figure out what your code is. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you get like half a point, and then the whole goal is to get a whole point.
Yeah.
I did get to play it later in the day.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
Well, by the same designer, Matt got to try Archaeologic.
So it has a little bit of Turing Machine, which is one of the designers. One of the designers of Turing Machine is the designer of these games. Some of these. Anyway, so basically, there's a track in the middle. Kind of is your time. The person who's behind is the person whose turn it is, and then you spend time to do an action. A certain time did certain actions, like you'd question about certain piece.
There's different types of questions. You could ask about the symbols of the piece, or what row or column the piece was located, right. And that's how you can deduct where these polyominoes
pieces. Because the whole point is we're all trying to race to figure out the orientation and position of a bunch of polyomino Tetris shapes on a map or on a board that we have hidden behind our thing because, you know, clues. Anyway, so yeah, you would kind of spend the time, ask the question, and then you take this weird wheel thing and you'd put it on the back and then spin this basically clue giver of sorts. And this is where it's like Turing Machine because you line it up the right way and then you get answers to your question. It's like, oh, this piece is in that row or whether it's not. Or you know, how many pieces? How many
this
pieces
triangle symbol in this row.
Yeah,
things like that. So it was interesting. I didn't play it, but I watched the teach and I thought it was interesting. It might be easier to understand compared to Turing Machine, because I know Turing Machine, when we try to teach the game, people are really confused. This one seemed a little more simplistic, so maybe easier to understand, but I don't know how gameplay was.
I really like these social,
we both
not social deduction, logic deduction.
Yes.
Puzzly games.
Well, the next game by the same designer was called Chronologic.
Chronologic, and that one you got to play.
Yes, and it was very similar to Awkward Guess, in which there's a murder, you try and find out the room and who did it. You will ask a question, you'll take the cards, and they will give you clues on who went where, you know. Same like clue, you know, asking question, getting some information. I definitely enjoyed it because everybody gets some clues, but you, as the question asker, will get an extra clue. And you always get new information unless an opponent asks the same question, in which case you get same information. But compared to other deduction games like this, they usually, you know, you would keep getting the same clues if you ask a question and the person gives you clues. Sometimes you might
end up getting the same card or answer.
No new information. So I did definitely enjoy this. I did have trouble like following along and understanding what was happening to figure out who the killer was, but it was still fun. And if you enjoy deduction-based games similar to Awkward Guess, I think you would enjoy this maybe even more.
Anyway.
The next game we played was For All Mankind.
Okay, so that's another one that only you played.
Yes, this is a space-themed game of trying to colonize space. Very similar to Catan.
But in space!
Yes, and we are both not Catan fans, but this one was a little bit better than Catan in the aspect where you are not limited in the routes to go. I mean, you could collect resources to fly to another planet. Versus in Catan, you have to build roads and then you get locked in place.
It's possible to get blocked out where people build around you and then it's like, I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything.
But For All Mankind, as long as you have resources and fuel, you can fly to the next planet if you have the right resources and whatnot. So I definitely like that better. Otherwise, it was, similar to Catan. In the gameplay, you need 10 points to win, but there's a research track where you could, research and upgrade things like your ships and whatnot. And then there's these cars, developmental cars, where you can build things like rockets and blow up people's colonizing.
Colonizations. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the planets moved around and orbited, which is pretty cool.
I did enjoy that. So I think for me, I would definitely enjoy this game more than Catan, even though I didn't play a full game.
No.
All right.
Next, we have icing on the cake, where you're basically building a cake on. Everyone has their board, and it's a grid, and you're taking. So there's 2 grids, essentially, one on your player board that you're building the cake, and then the one that you're picking from. Basically, each turn, a player will be the slicer, and they'll get a card that will have various Tetris patterns that coordinate to the players and their color. And then the cutter will decide which orientation that card will be in. Then they put it down, and then everyone will grab the pieces that coordinate with that card. So I might have a certain L shape in a certain spot, and then I like those pieces, so I'll orient it so I'll get them. And then everyone gets their corresponding pieces, then put them on their player board.
Yes, in the first round, you build your cake, and then the second round, you do the same thing, but you get icing, and you put it on your cake. And you want to match up the same flavors with the same icing, because you get bonus points for that.
Well, in the middle of the game, there's also the sprinkles that you're trying to put on the edges for both rounds. And you get points for those, as well as...
you get variety points, because there was like 4 different flavors.
4 flavors, yes.
And if you get one of each flavors, you get bonus points for that, and then you can get a candle, which is more points. And I definitely enjoy the theme because I like food,
Yeah, no, it was really fun.
So I really enjoyed this game. And by the same publisher, we played
Kulami,
which is a 2-player game.
Abstract strategy. You basically are putting marbles on these wooden pieces that are various sizes, rectangles and squares.
Somewhat of area control.
A little bit of area control, and there's some limitation on where you can place, but you're basically taking turns doing this. And once a player can't place a marble, or all the marble spots are filled, the game is over, and we'll divide up those pieces based on, like you said, area control. Whoever has the majority on that piece will get it, and then they'll get points for it.
And the pieces are different size, because there's like 2, 4, and 6, and that's how many points
they got 3s and...
Oh yeah, and there was 3 too. Yeah.
In there too.
So yeah, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 6, and so and you score that way. It was fun. It was interesting. All right. So the next game that was played was Gun It, and Matt played this game.
So Gun It is a cooperative game where it starts out where there's a car in the middle, and then we deal out enemy vehicles around us. Kind of plays out like a high-speed chase or an action movie where we're all trying to do something to get rid of these cars and vehicles. So at the beginning of the game, there's also a scenario that we get set up with that has point values, basically a bronze, silver, and gold level. Like, if you get this many points, you did okay. If you get a lot of points, you did really, really good. And each turn we'll flip over a kind of something that happens. Maybe we'll get extra bonus points, or your first shot gets double damage, or something like that. There's a choice on it. We'll make the choice, and then we'll get timed, let's say 4 minutes or so, to rearrange and trade off cards that indicate what we're doing. So those things might be a gun, so it determines what shooting you somebody, a direction, so which way you're shooting or moving, because one of the things is also a steering wheel, and also, let me think, what else? Oh, the turn order for when we resolve everything, because that really makes a difference as well. Anyway, the timer run out. Then we'll all resolve, like, let's say I was driving and I got first, and then I got whatever direction. I would move in that direction, push the car. And then the next person would, let's say my passenger would have the shotgun and they were going second, and they would have to make sure that they're not shooting across my lap, but they're shooting to out the window, because then that would be a risky shot, and there are some things going on there. Anyway, he shoots a car, it does some damage, maybe it blows up, and then it causes damage to its adjacent vehicles, then they would blow up, so then we'd get points for both blowing up the cars as well as creating essentially a cascading damage, which is pretty cool. Anyway, everyone will resolve like that, and then we'd get some points, and then we'd flip over a new card, or no, we would refill the things by all the vehicles that are still alive closing in on us, refilling the gaps, and then doing it over and over again until we get a certain amount of points, or like the rounds, certain amount of rounds, which I thought was really fun. Anyway, that's it. I really enjoyed it. It's fun co-op.
Right.
Not too complicated.
Well, the next game we tried out was Windmill Valley, and this game is where
it's very pretty.
It is very pretty.
You're growing tulips and tulip fields and stuff like that.
So we have a windmill where you spin it based on how much
water level you adjust the water level. That determines how much you spin your wheel. That wheel then determines what choices you have for actions.
And the different action was like planting your tulips, putting down windmills, getting order contracts, or getting helpers. There was a bunch of other things to do with it, but this game tulips, it was. I feel like it was a good Euro game that I would enjoy. We only played a couple of rounds just because of time. But I think that this one would be a game I would buy for sure. Yeah, I would
definitely like to, if not get my hands on, like, to play a full game, because I think it'd be really fun.
Yes. All right, another game, this time you tried it, was The Spill.
So another one that I tried. So it's basically an oil spill game where we're rescuing animals. There's a dice tower in the middle and a bag of dice, and anyway, so everyone has some asymmetry powers. Maybe you get to roll one less dice on your turn, or you get to rescue 2 animals instead of 1 when you rescue animals, little things like that. And you start your turn, you draw a certain amount of dice out of the bag, you roll them in the dice tower. At the bottom of the oil rig, it determines what regions and sections they go in. Then you have action points, where you can, like, rescue animals, get rid of the oil dice, move so you're in a different part of the board, things like that. And essentially it's co-op, and we're trying to achieve certain goals. At the beginning of the game, there'll be a little goal card, which will have, like, get rid of X dice, save X amount of animals, things like that. And you're trying to achieve all of them to finish the game. And there's also, like, certain one-use powers or abilities, which, in order to gain them, you must unlock them by earning cubes, which you do that by removing a certain amount of dice and animals as well. So everything kind of works cohesively. Things can get really dire and dangerous, because once animals oil goes into their spot, they're kind of become full of oil, and if you don't clear out that oil and rescue them, then they go away into basically like a sick bay, and you can't get them back. It's really hard. And once certain animals go away, it could really.
That's one way to lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I got to watch it a little bit, and I thought it was an interesting game.
I enjoyed it. It's kind of a sad thing that's a thing, oil spills, but
But you're rescuing them.
Yeah.
Anyways, the next game I played was called Fire in the Hole, and it was a pretty fun game, dexterity game, in which case you were pirates trying to fire these pom-poms onto a ship. And you have cards which you play one a turn, and it tells you what handicap you might have. Like, you close both your eyes and you throw a pom-pom, or you close one of your eyes, or there's no handicap and you got all your eyes to throw your pom-poms. And then you also roll a dice to see if you are the only one firing, or if everybody in the game is firing. And then on the count of 3, you will fire your pom-poms, and the goal is to try to get 4 of your pom-poms connected. In a grouping. Yeah. So it could be an L shape, straight. I don't think diagonals were allowed. Not really sure. I don't remember that part. But it was a fun little dexterity game. I believe kids would enjoy it. And it was really cool how you fold it up, or, to clean up. It fit in a box nicely. But then when you open it, it's like a pop-up book. So the ship was a pop-up ship.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that game, especially if you like dexterity game. It was very kind of like bounce off, or that.
Yeah, bounce off where with the ping pong balls.
Yeah.
And trying to
So another game I tried was called Cube Lord of the Frogs, and the concept was really cute. You have a board and you have dice, and each side is a different color frog. Everybody gets the equal number of frogs, and the goal is to try to land on other opponents' frogs to convert them to be yours. And everybody has what's called the Cube Lord.
kind of like a king in chess.
Yes, the king in chess. And if you land on the king in chess, the Cube Lord, then you can convert all of your opponent's frogs into your frogs, and then the opponent gets eliminated. So it was player elimination. I thought it was really cute. We played with some kids. They seemed to enjoy it. I think the game could kind of run long if you're rolling the dice and you're not getting the numbers you need to do some conversions. But it was a little quick fun game.
I didn't get a chance to play that one, but let's see.
Well, that is the end of all the demos we played, and we can move on to the prototypes.
Yeah. I mean, just this kind of a weird thing. There had a lot of more demos out there that we did not even get a chance to touch. Or, I mean, we walked by and there was full tables, so there's just a lot of demos.
Yes, that's the reason we split off, to try to be able to try more games.
I think there might be a list in here. Anyway, moving on to prototypes. Yeah, there you go. Look at this big long list of all the demos that they had going on.
Okay, so the first prototype we got to try was called Timber, in which case you are growing your trees in the woods, and the goal of the game is to grow your tree 6 growth high. And the opponent would try to chop your tree down or steal your tree leaves to shorten your tree.
Yeah, there were ways to reduce your opponents while also growing your own trees.
And I really enjoyed this game. It was somewhat of a little, I don't know if you consider it a take that, but it just basically
it was pretty strategic. Yeah. I mean, it felt like chess in some manner.
Yes.
And that idea of you're trying to help yourself, but also there's some, like I said, a little bit of take that, but it usually ended up being we played a 3 players. It was us 2 and the designer, and it usually ended up being a 2 against 1. Whoever's in the lead go after them.
Yeah, you basically go after whoever's in the lead. But
so much so that we actually played in the entire play time that was scheduled and did not finish the game.
Yes, we were pretty strategic, pretty good with that. But with more players, the game is quicker, but I guess you're like, oh, somebody else can take care of this person. I'm going to just work on growing my tree. So I definitely enjoyed that game. It was a good, fun prototype.
Yes.
The next game we tried was also by the same designer, Ethan, was Burger Bash. And this is a speed dexterity game, in which case everybody is trying to build burgers according to the orders. And you have to build them in the proper order, or at the end of the game, you lose points if you got them switched out or you don't have the right ingredients. And it was fun. It was like a quick 5-minute game, like an icebreaker.
Yeah, no, definitely a quick, chaotic game. I think be fun with kids, where most points wins. Like I said, it literally took like 5 minutes to play the game. And
the next prototype we tried was called Hex Chain by Dana. This was an abstract strategic game. What you do is you would pick 3 colors on your turn. You put 2 of those pieces on your board, and then the last piece you would put on your opponent's board. And you're trying to build the colors in a chain. And the more same length chains you build, the more points you get, because it's multiplied.
So example would be, let's say my orange one was 7 pieces long. That's 7 points. But then like my yellow and purple were both 6. So it'd be 6 times 2, because I have 2 colors that are that length. And then I would get those points. So that's essentially how the game worked. I thought it was really cool. Oh, and there was also an optional 4th action on your turn, where you had like a wild one that you can do whatever you want with. But you're limited on those.
Yes.
I think 3 per player.
It was an additional action. It wasn't like a separate.
I said it's a bonus. It was a bonus
action.
One.
Okay, but the next game we got to try was called Deductive Seasoning. This is by Eric. And I really enjoy this game because one, it's deductive logic game. We enjoy that. And then two is food. And the board was the
periodic table, but instead of elements, it was ingredients. So,
seasonings.
like instead of, well, I was about to say salt.
But they had like cumin, coriander, rosemary, things like that.
Sage.
Yes.
So at the beginning of the game, you're dealt with a hand of basically spices or, seasonings. You kind of pick one to be your secret one, and then throughout the game, you're going to be playing one to the other side of your little hidden board thing that determines what row or column or what color you are or what you're not.
It gives your opponent a hint about your spice, but then you ask the opponent a question about their spice, and that's how you collect clues.
Yeah, based on the card. So let's say I put a card in front of my board. I was like, okay, that indicates a color that I am not. And then that card was, say, pick a row, and then everyone tells you whether their spice is on that row or not. So then you can, because your private board basically had enough for each player, and you could cross out stuff and information based for everybody.
Yeah, and I really enjoy this game too. Like a lot of the prototypes I enjoyed.
Yeah, no, we enjoyed a lot of the prototypes.
All right, the next one I played was called My Realm by Ian. And this game is a really quick game where there are these cards with different terrains and symbols like animals. And each card has a different scoring method. On your turn, you would draft a card and play it into your realm. And it's only 7 turns, so you only draft 7 cards. But every round you will score, and at the end of the game, you also score one final turn. And it's just strategic placing of your cards and which cards you draft. And I thought it was pretty smart.
Yeah, it looked interesting. I did not get to participate in this one because I was off doing. I think I was in a demo. They said this is one of the ones we split off for.
Well, the next game we prototyped was Fish and Boots.
Yes, so this one was basically they had a board with fish in a line, separated by a region or town, and we're competing fishermen. We're fishing in these areas. Everyone had a little dial. You pick a location and a number, and then everyone would reveal. And then going from one location to the next, they would roll the dice and try to catch the fish because certain towns needed certain numbers, and then of course if you're going at the same time as someone else, the higher number goes first. You roll the number. If you succeed, you get a fish. If you fail, you get
boots.
No, I think you get nothing. If you roll the 0, you got a boot.
No. If you fail, you got a boot, and then you can roll the dice, and you might get an extra boot. And the boots were dice modifiers for future turns. You could use it to plus 2 to your dice roll and help you succeed in your catching of the fish.
Everyone did have special asymmetric powers. I remember mine was spending 3 boots for a 9+ to my roll, which is basically auto win, if you will. But it burned a lot of boots.
I definitely enjoyed the game, and he was also working on expansions for this one, so it would be exciting to see how that goes.
Right. Well, I think there was things that he wanted to incorporate the game, but he's like, nah, it's too much. Let me add this. So like one-use powers or modifying the
goals,
point value for the fish,
like a stock market and things. But that's for future expansion. All right, the next game we tried was called Doom Cats, and Doom Cat was more of the story was the cats opened a book and all these monsters.
Spell book, and it broke the seal, and all the monsters that it was holding got out. So then you're
a spellcaster. You roll the dice, and you're drawing up your spells.
Yeah, you're drawing runes. Basically, because your board is a bunch of candles with numbers on them, and then you roll the dice, and then based on the dice roll, you're connecting the candles with lines, and then through that you're getting some kind of points, but maybe creating little sections, little cut off spots, or connecting certain numbers together, or there's various ways. He had a variety of scoring possibilities that you can help for replayability. I thought it was really neat.
So I enjoy the game. It was very lightweight themed to cats, but towards the end we did mention different ways things he can add to add more elements of cats.
Maybe get the board, every player board would be cat shaped or having asymmetric cat
and
power.
this is still a prototype, so this is very much subject to change. So I enjoyed it. Although I did wish there was more cat involved.
I thought it was really fun, and that was Doom Cats by Dylan.
Yes.
I did not say.
And the last prototype that we tried was Kebab by Lev. And in this game, you got a grill with different vegetables and meat because you're
kebab ingredients.
Kebabs, and then they have kebab orders. In which case, if you skewer those items, you could turn in for points. And if you have it in the right order, you get bonus points. And I enjoy the puzzly aspect of like, oh, which way can I skewer these things to match the order?
Yep. And if ever any time that an ingredient wasn't on the board, then you can use a bonus action to replenish it a little bit. It did remind me a little bit of wasabi, but that was more building ingredients in a line or something on a communal board. This one's kind of on your own personal thing, which I thought was really, really fun. And then the pieces were really cool because they had a bunch of holes that you can...
Yeah, because you could skewer horizontal.
Yeah, it was actual shish kebab skewers that you were picking them up off the board.
So I really enjoy this game. I hope it comes out. And those are all the prototype games that we tried. But there was also a prototype competition, in which case they gave you 4 hours to build a game and then pitch it to
some designers that were from the exhibition hall.
Yeah.
So basically everyone got a box with some components in it. We didn't know what was in the box until it was like, everyone, let's do this thing. We're going to pick a theme out of a hat. Drew it. It was school. School was the theme. And then it was ready, set, go. Everyone open your boxes and start designing and thinking how to play the game.
And I felt like our group, we kind of spent too much time trying to figure out gameplay.
There's a lot of back and forth where we came up with ideas and then we tried to incorporate them, and then someone come up with some different idea like, oh, we could also do this, and then we kind of leaned that way. And
so anyways, we needed to spend more time on artwork because while gameplay is important, it is very much a visual thing for the publishers to see, and there's different grading things. So they grade on how it looks, they grade on gameplay and whatnot.
Has to be what simple it was to understand and things like that. But yeah, we spend so much time on mechanics. I mean, the art was pretty good, but a lot of they had basically pencil drawings and box art was good.
So yeah, that was a very interesting experience, and then the reason I wanted to try it out was because we have games we wanted to design, and hopefully, with this experience, we can get the ball rolling on that. All right, so moving on from prototypes, the next thing, they did have a hot game room.
So they had a lot of prototypes that we also didn't get a chance to play. But good. Well, moving on, hot games. The hot games list, they had quite a few that we've played already.
And own some.
We own some of them, and so we weren't too
we didn't spend as much time in the hot game room like we normally would. They had Apiary, which we own. They had Wormspan. They had Dune Uprising. And
they also had Wingspan Asia expansion in the corner.
Yes.
They had,
and then other games.
Yeah, a lot of games that we've, like I said, played or experienced or owned.
But then there was also other games that we weren't familiar with, but they would have taken much longer, and we would need somebody to teach us, So it was 2-3 hour games. I was like, I didn't want to spend that much time in the hot game room, and so we kind of didn't do as many hot games at this con. One of the ones that we did play, though, was Life of the Amazonians, which I enjoy. It's more of a bag builder for resources.
So it's in the same realm as Quacks Quedlinburg.
Or Orleans.
Or Orleans. Mm-hmm. More, I think, Orleans, because Quacks was a push your luck. Orleans is you pulling for actions, where this one is you're pulling resources, so then you spend those resources on actions.
Yeah, so you could buy more terrain tiles, you could buy animals, you can do a couple other things. I did enjoy this game.
Yes, because the whole point of the game at the end is most points, and the main point criteria was the animals, much like Cascadia or ecosystems. You had to collect certain animals and put them in your rainforest certain ways, or in the Amazon to score points.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it.
And then they're also in the hot games area. They also had in the back large versions of other games like Azul or Seven Wonders Architect. Or Mosaic was one.
Marrakesh, the rug Marrakesh, where you're trying to put the rugs down.
And I think Small World was one. They're just large versions of those.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty interesting, but we didn't play that because there was lots of things to do at this time.
We don't play games that we know or played before. We want some new stuff.
Exactly. And then they did have a play to win at this con. It was a pretty there was a lot of different play to win games. There was one shelf full of play to wins, and then there's a list.
So yeah, they had quite a. So you got your list of play to wins, and then here's actually a map of the con.
So we checked out a few of them. Life of the Amazonian was one of them. But we didn't win anything, unfortunately, but that's okay.
A lot of the games that we did check out, that was the games that we've experienced with, because we played them at other cons. It was like, oh, here's an opportunity to possibly win a copy. So we checked it out, played with some people, and stuff like that.
But moving on from the play to win is the library. The library was pretty large, like over 4,000 games. They did have a section of like classics.
So yours Clue and Monopolies and Rocco and like games that looked like they are from the 50s. Like the boxes were
looking sad and taped up.
They were probably pulled out. They were probably taken from like garage sales and stuff.
Okay.
So.
But the library was pretty large. I would say it was equivalent to BGG's Falls library, or possibly even larger than that.
Moving on from that is tournaments. They had a variety of tournaments. They had TCG, so trading card game area, for Pokemon and Magic and stuff like that. They had a variety of tournaments for them. They also had, let's see what else they had. They had a section for the WSBG, which is the World Series of Board Games, where that I think costs a little bit for tickets for those.
Yeah, you have to buy tickets and then use the tickets to apply for the tournaments.
Anyway, so you'd apply or be entered into the tournament, play games. So they had things like Ticket to Ride, Dune Imperium Earth. And the winner essentially went to regional. So these were regional qualifying tournaments. So obviously, if you won, you would go into the next round, which would be at some other time, some other place, which was pretty cool. And then the last competitions or championships that they had was Envoy, put on by Envoy, which was no charge. You just had a time and place to go. They had a bunch of games like Bonanza and Dimension, Hearts Munchkin, but you got to participate in one of those.
Yes, I signed up for Boop, which is the cat game of 2 players, and you're trying to get your 3 cats in a row to win, or all 8 cats on the bed. I signed up for this one because I figured it was an easy game and it would be a quick tournament, because tournaments are always long, and I was trying to be like, oh, let's experience it, but let's do a quick one. I did get lucky. Well, I didn't really want to play against a kid, but I was lucky and I played against a kid and won. And then the next round, my opponent dropped out or did not come back. And then the third round, I guess we had an odd number of players. So I was the odd man out, and I did not have an opponent, and I got to move on to the semifinals.
Auto pass.
Yes. So, in the semifinals, I played and I won, and I went into the finals. And I was able to do really well and won the Boop tournament. So I was pretty happy with this. I enjoyed my little trophy, and it has Boop on it, which I didn't know it was all labeled.
So, besides this trophy, what else did the winners get?
The semifinalists all got a copy of Boop, and the winner got a ticket to RageCon and the trophy. But you said besides the trophy.
Yeah.
So, So RageCon is another convention in Nevada, but it's like northern Nevada. And I believe it's like in June or July. We're not really sure if we're going to go yet after our experience in Nevada. So we'll see about that.
So those were the tournaments going on. Let's talk about some other things like the flea markets.
Okay, well, let's first talk about the virtual flea market.
So for those of you who don't know, a virtual flea market is virtual. So
it happens before the con even starts, where you post your games that you're trying to sell, and you can scroll through them and buy whatever games you're interested in. And then during the con, there will be a designated time to meet up with these people to do the transaction of trading games and
Yeah, so if there's any haggling and negotiating has to happen through messaging, and like as you said, a time and place is designated for them to make their trades.
Yes, and there was over 200 pages of games, so there was lots of games to search through and see if there was anything that you were interested in. Here, they did not have a search engine, or at least I didn't see a search engine. So you just had to go through the pages. Versus on BGG virtual flea market, they have a link that you can click into where you can filter games and search for certain games and whatnot. Which so I did appreciate BGG having a link to filter and search.
But this is not BGG.
No, this is not. But the actual physical flea market, because there's always a flea market at these cons.
So that's where, opposed to the virtual one, that's where you either going to be a buyer or seller, or maybe even both. But if you're a seller, you're going to designate a table, you're going to reserve a table, you have your designated spot, you're going to set up all your games, and then the buyers, when the physical flea market opens, they'll go in, and it's literally like a flea market where you haggle and negotiate on the spot if you really wanted to, or you could just pay the price that they have posted.
Okay, so this flea market was the largest that we've been to. It is bigger than BGG Fall. I don't remember that one too well, but they was organized in a two-circle fashion. There's an inner circle and an outer circle, and you just do the loop and search for your games. For the virtual flea market, we bought 4 games. I was very choosy, conservative with what we bought. And for this, the physical flea market, we had to be very selective with what we buy. We went one round to see what they had, and we're like, hey, in the second round, if it's still there, we'll buy it. But by the second round, they all the games we wanted were bought, which was good for us. We didn't have to spend money or buy any games.
Which is, in the end, a kind of a good thing, because we were very limited on space.
Yes.
Going back, as mentioned.
Well, we ended up just buying one game, which was good. And it was able to fit in our suitcases that we still had. Okay.
So those are the flea markets. In addition to those, there's also math trades, which they usually have at cons. We did not participate in that one. But for those of you who don't know what that is, basically, you say what game I want and what game I'm giving away in some system, and there's a computer algorithm that figures all that information out. So that way, if let's say I have a game that I have that you want, but there's a game that you want and someone else has, or anyway, point being is there might be a trade of 3 or 4 different people happening where everyone walks away with what they want and got rid of the things they didn't want.
Yeah.
But that's also a thing. Any additional things we need to talk about? I think, how was scheduling events?
Scheduling events was very easy. I like the website that Dice Tower West uses. It's called My Cardboard.
My Cardboard Events, maybe?
Yes, you make an account, and then once you have an account made, you could easily sign up for events. They do, if you sign up for something 10 o'clock and it lasts an hour, it does block you for signing up for something for 10:30, or like if something lasts 2 hours, it's going to block you from signing up and overlapping. With a few exceptions, I believe some demo games that you sign up for, it allowed you to sign up for multiple demo games. So I was able to sign up for a demo game for 2 demo games for 10 o'clock, in which case I went to one and Matt went to the other. And I believe it's because demo games are kind of quick, or at least some of them are like 30 minutes, so they didn't want to lock you out of signing up for other demo games.
Yeah.
Which is fine because there's plenty of people who sign up for demo games and they don't show up, in which case you could just walk by and take a seat if there's an open seating in that.
Yeah, some of them had teachers, not teachers, players wanted, or when they didn't have a full one, or the person who was demoing or teaching the game would just sit in as the last player.
Yeah, so they were pretty good at staying on time, I believe. I know if people were late, they were like, okay, let's wait 5 to 10 minutes to see if this player's going to show up. But afterwards, they started. And, and like with the end time, they were like, okay, at least when we played, they were pretty good at wrapping it up, so we could move to the next scheduled event. So I really did like this My Cardboard website.
Events, yeah.
I mean, it kept track of what games you played, what you checked out at the library. It had the list of all the play to wins.
And I can attest, I think I agree that the UI, user interface, was much more friendlier than what we've used at other cons, which was tabletop events.
Yeah.
And their scheduling.
Tabletop events, it allows you to filter, and it allows you to search and schedule, and it allows you to do all those things. It was just like the look and the user,
the user interface.
Yeah, it was just so much better in my opinion. So I definitely like this website more. So let's compare Dice Tower West to other board game conventions we've been to.
It is one of the bigger ones. So the closest in size that we can compare it to would be BGG Fall.
Yes. And I feel like maybe there's the same amount of people or potentially more than BGG Fall.
Yeah, I can't really specify. I can say that, because BGG Fall is also broken up into a couple of different floors.
About 3 floors.
So it's harder to really estimate of how much space it really takes up. But like you said, ticket sales might be about the same, but then there's also the square footage, where I feel like Dice Tower West, they were able to kind of spread out, so there was a little bit of breathing room. Like I feel like at BGG, there's maybe a couple, I don't say 5. Well, it felt like we were this close walking through the exhibition hall, where we could kind of spread out. And
yes, there's definitely at Dice Tower West, there was definitely more square footage. There was 2 large gaming areas of Dice Tower West, and then there were small gaming areas, but those were designated for specific things, like
Blood on the Clock Tower or trading card games.
At BGG Fall, there was 2 large gaming areas, but they were not as big compared to Dice Tower West. But at BGG Fall, there were several smaller rooms where you can play in, and then some smaller rooms for designated things. And then it was broken up on different floors, so it was very hard to compare how big and spacious it was compared to Dice Tower West. I did appreciate that for Dice Tower West, it was all in one place, and it was, very neat. You know where you're going. Versus at BGG Fall with the 3 levels, 3 floors, you're like, okay, where do I go for this? And where do I go for that?
Sometimes you were playing a detective game, trying to figure out what room you need to go for what.
So, yes. And with the spaciousness, BGG Fall, the hot room was smaller, and
it was hot. It was hot. It was the hot games room because it was hot in there.
You were sweating in there. Versus here at Dice Tower West, it was definitely more spacious, and it was still warm, but it wasn't sweating warm.
I feel like at BGG, the hot games room, there was barely any room to really squeeze between the tables.
Not
except
spacious.
At least from the back-to-back tables, yes. But then they had 2 aisles basically you can walk down. Where this one, there's enough space around the whole table that
you can walk through.
Yeah, because we taught Wormspan in there for some new people, and it actually gathered a small crowd while we were teaching. I guess because the first day, so people were interested, and it was all the tables were full, so it was a good way for people who didn't get a seat to figure out how to play. And yeah, we got a little crowd and people. And
like I said, all the rooms were larger compared to BGG Fall. So the flea market was larger. The exhibit hall, I don't know if there was more booths, but it was definitely more spacious. I didn't feel crowded bumping into people in the exhibit hall compared to BGG Fall. You could feel the narrowness and at BGG Fall. So just space-wise, it was definitely more spacious.
Anyway, so I'm trying to think. I don't think that's anything else.
So how do you feel about Dice Tower West?
So overall, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, at the top of the episode, we mentioned the unfortunate things that has happened to us, which kind of saddened the mood, put a damper on things. But taking that out of the equation, I did really enjoy it. Some drawbacks I felt, the fact that it is in Vegas, so there was a casino there, and we had to kind of walk through the casino to get to the convention hall, and it was a pretty decent walk to get from the room. Granted, we were also at the end of the hallway, so I felt double the length than other people. But those are two things: the walk and walking through the casino, because people were smoking and things, and I did not appreciate those. And of course, prices being a little expensive. So, but you deal with what you got. Because we also had to walk through the casino pretty much when we wanted to go get something to eat. They did have concessions, but we felt, we were in Vegas. We want to try things, not just.
Well, the concession wasn't as good. Like all place cons, the concessions are just okay. So you go out a little bit more, you get better quality food.
So yeah, we wanted to try out some of that while we were there. But yeah, and I'd recommend, I guess, checking it out. Luckily, they're going to be moving it to a new location next year.
That's supposed to be bigger.
It should be bigger. I know it's bigger. What? But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I would like to go back. I'd say it is. I'm going to say it is my favorite large con that we've been to. So
I did enjoy Dice Tower West. There are some drawbacks, but I do want to say Dice Tower West, not as family friendly. There was still families and children there, but not as much compared to BGG. But I did enjoy the amount of events and gaming and all that they had, and getting to try out all these things. I felt like there was more of everything compared to BGG. The things I did not like was the fact that I was in a casino and there was smoking, and I did not like being around smoke and secondhand smoke. So that was the drawback of
pretty much the same things I said.
Yes, but I really did enjoy Dice Tower West. It's not my favorite, but it was a good con.
Is it top 3?
I guess it can be top 3. The third.
The third one? Okay.
The third one.
Okay.
Well, you can watch my other reviews of other cons to know which one is my favorite.
Go check out those videos.
Yes.
So that was our experience and how we feel about Dice Tower West.
Thanks for watching.
Please like, subscribe, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye for now.